Hello, and welcome to another edition of Purple Tories. Every so often, I get someone reach out to me who says they'd like to talk about a certain topic or something like that. And today I have someone called Scott Dempsey. And I believe you want to talk about the dissident right and YouTubing and things like that.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of really kind of interesting kind of time just now. Well, obviously aside everything else that's going on, but I think the past few years has been a bit full on politically. There's just been so much with Brexit and everything that kind of led up to Boris getting in, and before that, there's just been so much happening online, particularly with YouTube. It's been pretty amazing. It's been really interesting to kind of follow it, and there's obviously there was a lot of things going on in America, and obviously the whole Silicon Valley issue and the freedom of speech issue, and a bunch of other kind of things. And it's kind of strange that you get led to a point where you're Scottish and you end up voting Tory.
Oh wow, it's come to that.
Yeah, it's came to that. Yeah, so it has came to that. I mean, Scotland's got a real problem just now that basically it's just utterly ran by social justice warriors. I mean, it's just, you'd one guy, with a couple of guys in the Scottish Parliament a few weeks ago apologising for being white men, and you think, what are you talking about? And like I don't support everything Millennial Woes says, but I do. I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. He's some of the things he comes out with is pretty interesting, and I think it was terrible what happened to him, and I think it was terrible what happened to Count Dankula as well. And there's a lot of people that maybe want to express their views and are kind of getting shut out of the conversation, or they're getting hounded in some way. And I think that's kind of like something that I've been thinking about for a while, and now it's kind of got to the point. I've been thinking about YouTubing for a long time, and I normally work offshore, and obviously with the total global economy being shut down, and everything's shut down now, and it's just sort of like, right, well, I've got some time to kill, so this is probably the time to do it.
So what kind of work do you do offshore? I'm guessing that means remote or something, right?
Yeah, so I basically go between, I do a little bit of oil and gas, but it's mainly like subsea cable installation. So working offshore on renewables, done a lot of renewable work, like offshore wind farms, and then I've been out in Indonesia for 3 years. So
right. So you're an engineer?
Yeah, like subsea, so like ROVs and that kind of thing. So I've been out there for 3 years. Asia's pretty interesting. So, and then Indonesia is a pretty amazing country, I mean, it's definitely going out there's a bit of a wake-up call, pretty interesting. So what we do out there is we do a lot of subsea telecoms. So it's like Virgin broadband for like countries and islands and stuff like that. So say if you want to connect up 2 islands or 2 countries with subsea fibre optic cables, that's my kind of gig.
So going back to the YouTubing, you mentioned Millennial Woes and a few other people. It's funny, actually, despite YouTube and myself, I don't actually follow lots of YouTubers. I mostly just follow Sargon, PJW and Dankula.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what exactly happened to Millennial Woes. What actually happened?
Well, basically, right, Millennial Woes, I don't support all these political views. He makes some interesting points, and to be honest with you, I actually quite like him as a person, even though I don't necessarily support his political views. Well, some of them. Millennial Woes, I don't really know everything he said, but I think he was kind of giving it the kind of anti-Islam chat, and that basically what happened was he was talking about, he was kind of anti-immigration kind of stance, but he was pretty vocal about it and basically, I don't think he'd ever done, I can't remember, I don't think he'd ever done a face reveal. And someone picked up the story and basically got hounded, like, out the country. So he was like a political dissident, so he had to leave the country.
His address and stuff.
Yeah, they doxed his address, and then basically he had somebody for the Daily Record or one of the other papers basically turned up at his house, and then he was living with his dad. So you know, and these people are, when people start coming to your house, that's pretty dark, you know, just because you've got an opinion, you know, that's pretty dark. So he ended up leaving the country for a while. I'm not actually too sure where he is now, but you know, he's I didn't think that was particularly fair. I think they called him the most vile man in Scotland or something like that, you know what I mean? Now it's like, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Didn't the Daily Record say something similar about Dankula? I thought they said something quite funny. I can't remember what it was. He's something like a bearded, tattooed thug or that kind of thing, you know.
You know, the thing is about Dankula, I mean, it's like, you can tell he's a decent guy, and you can tell he's funny, and you know, it's one of those ones, like trying to put out people like that as some kind of right-wing Nazis is just, you know, but I mean, the past few years, everybody, you know what I mean, if you're a middle of the road Tory, you're a Nazi to a lot of people, you know, and it's just, I mean, well, it's not really a lot of people, it's a vocal section of the left wing on Twitter, and that's a bit disturbing, because everything that they accuse people of being, you know, that they're fascists in some way, these are the people that want to shut down political views and get people banned, and you know, hound them at their houses, and you know, like you see it in America with Antifa, you know what I mean, like in political violence, and you think to yourself, like, who's the fascist here, you know? So,
but the thing is, I think there was always crazy people to begin with, these crazy minorities. But you know, it wasn't great that we gave them Twitter. That made them all the more easy to listen to. But I think another person I follow, Gad Sad, I think said
Gad Sad,
yeah, he's good, and I think he's nailed it on the head when he said, like, it's not the fact that we have these crazy people, it's the fact that the adults have left the room, and you know, these college professors and stuff, they're indulging them and they're letting them do that stuff. So we need the adults to come back into the room, and you know, the people in government positions or whatever, to not pay attention to these Twitter mobs and actually do their job and stand up for the people.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, there was something, and I can't remember who it was saying this, and I think it was actually Sargon. Now, Sargon, right, like, I was a lot more of a fan of Sargon, I think, until he went to Joe Rogan, and it was sort of like when the rubber meets the road, and he went on there, and it wasn't his best performance, I'll give him that. And Sargon's done some amazing things. He's done some really amazing videos on his main channel. I think particularly the two ones that really stood out for me that I thought were incredible was the one, it was after the Manchester bombing, and he basically went in and he really looked into what was happening to young Muslim men in the UK and why they were becoming so disenfranchised with, you know, Western policies, and why they would go to such extreme measures to go and blow up a bunch of kids, you know what I mean? And he done, I thought that was an incredible video. And then there was a couple other ones I can't really remember, but
I really like the North FC video. Have you seen that one?
What one was that?
North FC. He explains the North FC meme. I don't know if you're familiar with that meme.
No, I don't know. No, I don't really know that one. Oh, I think I've kind of seen a bit of that. Aye. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have seen that. Aye.
Yeah, it's just basically, you know, northern geezers, like you go to Greg's and that, and just memeing them, and like how they like stand for, you know, being patriotic and stuff, compared to like the middle class dweeb English person or whatever who just wants to tear down the country and just remove all the things which have made the country what it is.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I find it pretty amazing. Like, a lot of the guys I work with are guys from the Northeast, and you know, if you go to like Newcastle and Liverpool and Glasgow, like, they're all pretty similar cities. You know, kind of maybe post-industrial, you know, centres. Where maybe kind of further south, you might kind of find where, like London, it might be more kid finance focused and, you know, international relations, whereas we're still got that in us, you know what I mean? And it's like, I work with a lot of guys from down there, and they all feel pretty much as I kind of do that. And I think a lot of people, I don't think it's just those people, but a lot of people in the country has felt that the country kind of lost its way. And as much as people could rattle on and say bad things about Boris, I think Boris has been exactly what we've needed for a long time. It's just somebody to turn back around and go, this is an actual country, you know, and the people in it love it. And we're not always going to be apologising for everything that's happened 100 years ago, you know, because those times are long gone. None of us was even alive.
Yeah.
You know, and why do any of us need to apologise for what happened 100 years ago? You know, it's like none of it was nothing. We never done any of it. You know, and so it's I don't know. I think that Boris has probably been the best thing that could have happened in the country, and I know that so many Scottish people wouldn't agree with me in this, you know, but you know, that's sort of the way I feel in that.
Yeah, it's kind of odd that Boris was able to capture like so many of these places in the north where they'd never been captured by the Tories in like a very long time, or if at all. But still, Scotland remains quite strong in its opposition to, you know, Boris and the Tories and that whole movement.
I think that, you know, this is something like basically have to say.
Just to point out, actually, I found a statistic the other day which I was really astonished by, which was that a third of the people who voted for Scottish independence also voted for Brexit.
Yeah,
did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that, but there's a lot of if you actually look at the numbers of people that voted for the Tories and Labour and you put them together, you know, it's like there was more of them that voted for their SNP, and there's like they've got no seats. You know, so there's a lot to be said about proportional representation in Scotland. My biggest gripe with the SNP, you know, I'm a former SNP voter. Now, my biggest problem with the SNP is the SNP's actually stole Scottish national identity and said, you know, if you are Scottish, then you must vote for the SNP. Now, and this is what, if you go, because I'm in a lot of like Scottish Facebook groups and that, and if you go anywhere near any political, you know, Facebook group in Scotland, it is, you know, what they call the cyber nats, you know, the cyber nationalists. No, they're not a nationalist party for a start. Let's be honest here. That they should be. Even Nicola Sturgeon actually said it's unfortunate that the Northern Nationalist is in the name. Now, like, what is so wrong about the country? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and like Nicola Sturgeon, she actually comes from like near where I live, and there's a lot of. I think that's been the biggest problem. The SNP have basically took what it is to be Scottish, and they've basically said to be Scottish is to support independence. And if you don't support independence, then you're not really Scottish. And this is the kind of game that they've kind of took, and they've sort of played this. And the other issue that I really kind of take grievance with is the sort of anti-Englishness, the SNP, and particularly towards Tories. By the way, this is something that really, really aggravates me. Is what they sort of do is they've sort of used what they use Boris, the Tories in Westminster as a proxy for the English voter. So they can say whatever bad thing they want about any of those three parties or like entities, and then use that to any sort of, what they really mean is the English voter. You know, but they can say whatever they want because it's not directed at the English voter. And I think it really annoys me that our political leaders totally disrespect the English people. I mean, you know, the Scottish and the English and the Irish and the Welsh, we all have a good rivalry, like a good one, you know, and that's something that I think is amazing. And it's something that we should all be proud of, you know, that we can have this rivalry and have fun about it. But I think that the SNP have kind of, I don't know how they've managed to get away with being this kind of racist way. And they do play, because there's obviously a lot of anti-English sentiment in Scotland, and we're a certain type of people, to be honest with you. And it's, you know, it's sort of, I think that the SNP has kind of pulled the wool over the Scottish people's eyes to an extent. And that really frustrates me, because I think that they've sort of stolen Scottish national identity and then took this full-on sort of social justice warrior politics and then sort of bootstrapped them together and said, this is what Scotland is now. And it's like, I think a lot of Scottish people are kind of sitting back, and there's a lot of Scottish people kind of waking up going, hold on a minute, you know, this is not us, and this is not what we voted for. But the thing is, because they've took the national identity element, that people are voting for what they see as their country, but it's been sort of railroaded by the SNP and then took over, you know. Yeah. And I just find it particularly disgusting that, like, what they've done. And the other thing as well with the SNP, that my other kind of gripe there is that they lost the independence referendum. Now, I was on the fence about this, about independence either way. I think we would actually be better off if we left the UK, like financially, but I don't think it would be the right thing to do. But you know, just for, I think we're on an island, particularly after Brexit, you know, and I think that there's a few things that I think they've really done wrong there, and they just won't accept democracy. Like, they won't accept that they lost the referendum. They lost it by 10%. Now, if you lose by 10%, you have lost, and a lot of SNP voters and just refuse to believe it. They refuse that it's true. You know, it's all a conspiracy theory, or it's this or it's that. They just can't accept it.
Yeah.
So
with YouTube and politics in general, what was your journey into, you know, becoming where you are now politically?
Well, you know, I was kind of thinking about this. I know you'd sent me the message about this earlier, and I was kind of thinking back about, you know, how this came about, and like I was kind of thinking back, and it actually led me back to the sort of mid-80s. I mean, I was born kind of early 80s, and a couple of the big things that happened then was the Ethiopian famine and Live Aid. Now, everybody that was sort of like my age remembers that, and they remember, like, growing up through those times, having those images burnt into your head when you're a kid. You know, I've seen, like, kids pure starving in Africa, and it was utterly shocking. It was totally terrible. Then if you fast forward into sort of the late 90s, you know, kind of late 90s, I was a kind of regular kind of Scottish kid, do you know what I mean? Like, kind of, you know, mosher, smoking loads of weed and all that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, immediately I'm thinking of train spotting.
Yeah, well, no, not train spotting anyway. Definitely not that anyway. No, it was sort of like you know, it was all kind of like listen to Rage Against the Machine, and you had that kind of anti-American imperialism vibe that was going through that. But the bit that I was kind of thinking about this was thinking about, like, the late 90s, and I remember kind of 99, 2000, there was some amazing documentaries on, like with dispatches and stuff like that, you know, round about that period on Channel 4. Like, you had the Mark Thomas comedy product. You had, what was the other one? Like, I was reading, like, Naomi Klein, No Logo. I don't know if you know that book. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. And she's kind of talking about the dangers of globalization then, but that was through the perspective of the left. And I was, yeah.
Okay, this was actually a program, an anti-globalization program on Channel 4.
No, but the thing is, Channel 4 in the late 90s was totally, it was the opposite, because it was left-wing, but it was anti-globalization. That was the thing about the late 90s. But at the same time, like 99, 2000, you had the protests against the G8 and the Davos, but it wasn't the same as they are now. You need to remember, a lot of this protest was about the African debt. You know, that's what people, and then, like, once it went into 2000, I think the world felt like it was going in the right place. Felt like the people were fighting back against capitalism, and, you know, something was going somewhere. But then my big change was, you know, as I said, like, I do, like, kind of control systems work at the time, and around about 2000, 2001. I was working for the doing some work for the MOD in Kinetic, and it was really interesting work. It was really, really cool, and that was at the time of 9/11. And I remember at the time when it happened, I genuinely could not believe what had happened, and it just felt like I had no idea about Islam. I didn't really like I didn't really know too much about the world when I look back at myself now. You know, I think I was very, very idealistic, and you know, I was really left wing. You know what I mean? You know, kind of was really left wing, and I think when 9/11 happened, and I remember just thinking, oh my God, there's people out there that hate us. And that to me was just like a total shock to my system, to think that people didn't like us. I just couldn't believe it in some ways. And sort of, I think it was in a sort of, I mean, I definitely remember I supported the war in Afghanistan. I was kind of on the fence about Iraq, but then it was like, once we went in, it was like, right, fuck it, you need to support your country. You know what I mean? You know, through thick or thin, you support your country. Kind of going further on for that, like moving more towards the, you know, the kind of sort of the past 10 years, you'd all the SNP and the, you know, and I think that was the thing with SNP. It was just slowly after time, and I'd voted for their SNP. I mean, I'm a traditional Labour voter, like, you know, and I think there's a lot of people that got votes in the last election, and it was from people like me, traditional Labour voters, because I mean, who's going to vote for Jeremy Corbyn? Do you know what I mean? And some of the things that's coming out of Momentum, you know, and you know, Owen Jones and Ash Sarkar, you think, who can support these people? They absolutely hate the country they're from. And you think, see, if you really hate it that much, there's plenty of other countries you can go and move to, and they will, I'm sure there'll be, you know, I mean, imagine these people going to another country and just like go and try and say that stuff in China. You know, you are going to be in the gulag. You know what I mean? So
these extreme people, like on the left, like Ash Sarkar and, you know, Owen Jones, they've become much more regular on the BBC and programs like that. But we've never really had like a right-wing person on these shows who does like the equivalent on the right-hand side. The most is like Peter Hitchens, but I haven't seen Peter Hitchens on TV for ages now.
I know, but I mean, that's the thing. But even the people that's right-wing, I mean, I was watching the stream the other night, and it was really, really good. Really enjoyed it, actually. And it was, you brought up Douglas Murray. No, I absolutely love Douglas Murray. I think he's absolutely fantastic, incredibly articulate, can explain how people are feeling. And it doesn't, the only way he gets away with saying what he's saying is because he's gay. Now, if that was a straight guy, they would not be allowed. And he even says it himself. You know, I've listened to a few interviews with him, and he even says it himself. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, that's, you know, it's just amazing that the fact is that the guy actually needs to be gay to say what most people are, well, not most people, but a lot of people are thinking a lot of this stuff, and they're scared to say it because, like the deplatforming issue and what happened with Millennial Woes and what happened with Count Dankula and stuff like that, people are genuinely scared to say what they think now. Because I had one guy, this was actually recently, and it was over something stupid. It was on like some kind of lefty page, and I can't remember what it was, and something came up, and it was one of these ones. I disagreed with the guy, and straight away he's in there with a Nazi. And I thought it was, he'd put this really shit meme, right? And it was a really rubbish meme, and I just put left canny mem, right? And then straight away, and I love that. Do you know, I think it's hilarious. But straight away, it was, he's like, Nazi. He's calling me a Nazi, and I was just like, you know, and it's a joke, right? But I was like, I said you'd be the first one for the Chambers. Do you know what I mean? For your shit memes. You know what I mean? But it's a joke. And then you know, the guy's just like commenting. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a nutter. Do you know what I mean? He can't even take a joke. Do you know what I mean? And you think this is the people you're dealing with. Do you know what I mean? You can't. These people aren't serious people. These are extremists. These are crazies. And then he's like, then he'd been on my LinkedIn. He'd contacted a company that I'd worked for. It was a previous company, but on my LinkedIn, it was the company that I worked for. And I was like, no, this is an Indonesian company, you know? And I'm like, they're going to be sitting there like that. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you talking about? This random guy messaging them, you know, trying to tell him I'm Nazi, even though I've been working out there for years. The same group of people, do you know what I mean? That they're all fantastic, and you think to yourself, you know, these people are like, I don't think they're really dangerous, but they're so
They're
diluted.
they're sinister people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I believe so.
There's
And
a
that,
there's a guy who's been on our stream before who I'm good friends with called Rich Patterson, and he's up north in Doncaster, and he recently lost his job because someone did exactly what you're saying, and just said, this guy's a bad guy, and maybe like screenshotted some things of him saying something about Islam, typical kind of stuff. And I've had it done to me. I had a job at a camera house at Pinewood Studios.
right, okay.
I was, I basically at the time, I can't remember what happened. I think it was in Canada where like some guard got killed by a terrorist. And I did, the usual thing of, Islam is a regressive, backward ideology that is violent and oppressive and that kind of thing. And some Muslim girl, I don't know where, could be like in a different country for all I know, just screenshotted it. And I remembered because I had Twitter at the time, and obviously that's where I was writing that stuff. And Twitter is cancer, by the way.
Yeah, I don't do Twitter. It's like I kind of missed the boat on it, and I'm kind of glad I did in some ways. But I would have been banned. I would have been banned because I'm like, I don't really take things too seriously. I think like, I'm more like probably get a kind of maybe a sort of similar sense of humor to, maybe Dan Killer or Sargon or those type of guys, in Woes as well, kind of. And you don't need to take things too seriously. I mean, the Islam thing, I mean, to be honest with you, it's like I've been out there for years, and I've got a lot of mates. They are good friends, and they're Islamic, right? They're Muslims, and there's a lot of stuff I've seen there that it's been an eye opener in both ways. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a strange thing, and I think that people need to be able to detach a lot of it, because the problem is that I don't want to be like one of these guys, not all, do you know what I mean, and going down that, there's obviously issues there, like, I know people have talked about Reformation. I don't see it happening, but there's a difference between people being kind of devout and then, because I've got a few mates that are devout, like seriously devout people. I don't know if you know about there's certain types of Muslim that what they do is they pray so hard they actually get a bruised head. I don't know if you've seen this. No, but this is true. Like, I've got mates and that have got bruised heads because
according to the Quran, really, isn't it? If you want to be a proper devout Muslim.
What's that?
I think it's 5 times a day you've got to pray.
I mean, they were doing that. Like a lot of the guys, I was working with, they would, you know what I mean, and we're doing like 24-hour operations and stuff like that. And they'd be like, I need to go pray, and it's just like, well, you know what I mean? It's like, but like I'm a kind of live and let live guy. You know what I mean? And I'm cool with folk doing what they want to do until it starts interfering with my life and it starts interfering with other people's life. Obviously, in the UK, there has been years where I don't know when we've went a year when we've not had a terrorist attack, and these people are shouting that it's they're doing it in the name of Allah. And to be honest with you, I find that pretty disgusting. That these people were.
The thing is, since I had my my little thing where I got fired from my job, this was years ago, by the way. I'm talking like 7 years ago or something at least. I've kind of moved my position since then, where I respect that it is people's culture and everything. So of course they're going to be defensive about that. But at the same time, there are problems with it, and so instead of the whole religion is a backward religion, even though, to be honest, I still kind of do believe that.
I mean, the thing is about it, I mean, they can believe what they want to believe, but there's a lot of people that believe things. I mean, I'm agnostic, and, I've even got mates that are like, how can you be agnostic? Why are you not an atheist? And it's, it is what it is. You've got to let people believe what they want to believe. And if that's what they want to believe, that is totally up to them. Like, I'm pretty liberal about stuff. I'm like, you know, if you want to go and do something, it's your life and it's up to you what you want to do. Obviously, there's a few issues. There's a few issues. Do you know what I mean? With that, you know, the Islam stuff. There is a few issues, and it's kind of hard. The problem is as well. Like, I think a lot of people wouldn't say what I'm saying because they'd be, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. Oh my God, I'll never work again. You think to yourself, well, like you've got to kind of be able to express your opinion about stuff, and particularly if you know if kids are getting blown up in streets and people are getting stabbed all the time, and then like the Rotherham thing, you know, not just the Rotherham thing, but there was like a national, you know, issue with that. There was something that happened up my way recently, and that was another cover up, you know, and like even, you know, there was a bit of push recently to get the full grooming gang report released, and that never that's kind of been kicked into the long grass now with everything going on.
They got over 100,000 signatures.
It did, but there's no way it's going to get debated in Parliament just now because there's just too much going on. So it's definitely it's like there's no news today. But I think personally, my thing is about it, I think that there's probably a lot in some ways, you know, we could learn for them, and there's a lot they could learn for us. But there needs to be a sort of meeting of minds with this, because it's sort of like if you've been in business, you know, you can't always choose who you're going to work with in business, because they're not the perfect partner, but it's who's there, you know. And I think that people like there's a lot of people on the alt-right that they would just be like, we'll just fucking bomb our way out of this problem, and it's not going to work. I know, and it's not just alt-right. There's like a lot of people in the American government that think we could just bomb our way out of this problem, and it's not going to work, because you need to be able to. And it's just the same, I think, on the other side. Like I've had conversations about this with some of the Islamic guys and that, and some of them are more devout than others, but even the Western ones and that, you know, I've spoke to them and go, you know, well, what do you think about gays and all that? They should be in jail, and that's westernized ones, you know. And like there needs to be something where we like as humanity can come to some sort of like peace about all this, because it cannot go on for another 1,000 years. Like, it just can't.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the main thing is just reducing immigration, full stop. And I do think pretty well the Tories will actually do something about that.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, the coronavirus has done more for it than anything else.
More than anything. Brilliant.
It's just, you know, it's kind of strange that the coronavirus has sort of managed to keep the environmentalists happy and the people that want to reduce, you know, it's pretty hardcore.
Coronavirus is a Nazi virus.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's really strange. I think that the immigration has definitely been too high, and that's been one of the things that I felt for a long time. And I think people were really scared to speak out about it, because, to be honest with you, for a long time, like, things in the UK, like with immigration to a point, were actually really quite good, because a lot of the people that came here did integrate, you know, and they did, and it's like there's a lot of good that's came out of immigration, but when you get to the point where it's just been completely uncontrolled, and people, I think there's been a lot of people that have kind of mistaken their kindness for weakness. And
I know what the turning point is, don't you? It's when Tony Blair got elected in 1997.
Yeah.
The immigration curves just before he got elected and when he got elected, it's literally bobbling along. It's going up a little bit, you know, up into the early 90s. But as soon as you hit 97, Tony Blair, it's like boom, and then 98, boom, straight up.
But I've thought about this, right? And I actually think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, about the debt relief, and about, you know, that sort of, you know, like people going out and protesting, they wanted to forgive the debt. And I think that there seems to, I've got a feeling that there seems to be something that happens with politics where the people feel a certain way for a while, and it might take 10 years, it might take 20 years. I don't know how long it takes, right? How long these cycles goes on, but the politicians are always on catch up. You know, it's not like, it doesn't feel like it's this instant. I think that they sort of mistaken, you know, us for like the debt relief to let's invite them all in. Now, my issue is there that it's not like, because I've got like, I'm trying, I want to kind of phrase this properly. Put this way, I've got some relations which are, descendant of asylum seekers, we'll just say, right? Just because I don't want to go into, certain things, but the bit that kind of gets me is, through all of this, I think a lot of people was happy to have immigration in the UK to a point, but I think everybody's known it's been totally out of control for a long time, and I think they will go on this immigration thing now, because I think that everybody's like, just, it's so beyond it now, and it has been for so long, that the fact is you're going to places in the country and it's just not the UK. I mean, there's so much I can agree with. There's a lot of YouTubers that, I'll not mention their names because some of them I actually don't want to actually promote in any way, because there's some of them that are just straight up racist, like straight up racist, and I know for a fact they are, just by a few things they've said, like talking about brown people and that, and you think, oh fucking hell, do you know what I mean? It's like, but you look at Priti Patel and you go, how is she not, what I mean, as British as any is,
Yeah.
and that's, and it's sort of that, but it's the immigration one, I think is a really hot potato, and that's another one that people were like, they don't want to talk about it because they're fucking scared. They're scared of losing their jobs. They're scared of being like social pariahs. And you think to yourself, how did we get in this point in this country where people were scared to say what they think?
But I think it is turning around now. It hasn't turned around, on mainstream media like the BBC or whatever. That'll always be a shit show as far as that stuff goes. But you can see on the internet, I subscribe to like Vice News.
Aye, for the shits and giggles.
Yeah, but like you watch the videos, and when they say something, Trump being racist about the virus or what, something.
Oh my god!
If you look at the like to dislike ratio,
exactly.
Even like on Vice News, they're not having it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's so much of that. Like, like Scotland. Another problem is with Scotland is the SNP always want to do exactly the opposite of the Tories. It's just whatever Boris Johnson decides, we're going to do the opposite, right? And it's just pure and simple ideology. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's just, we don't want to be the Tories. And that's really annoying. Now, Nicola Sturgeon saying that basically because we've got a declining population in Scotland, that we're going to, our makeup will, like our demographics, to improve birth rates and stuff like that. We won't do anything to encourage young people to have kids, except baby boxes. I don't know if you've seen the baby boxes. It was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. But it's basically they're going to get it for immigration. Now, who ever like asked the Scottish people if the Scottish people were cool with that? Like nobody. Like nobody ever kind of went to us and says, "Oh, like are you all happy? We're just going to bring people in for the rest of the world." And I'm not saying that there's not a lot of really incredibly talented people that Scotland would benefit from, but like if you go, you go down to a lot of places in England now. I've done a wee bit of travelling about England, and you go down, and it's no England anymore. It's not. It's you could be in Islamabad. Some of the places. And I'm not talking about kind of big cities. I'm talking like Middlesbrough. It's like and it's. I think that a lot of people, and it's the problem is as well. Like if you speak about this stuff, I think a lot of people are like, they feel they feel nervous about it, even if they agree. Now, you go to a lot of parties and stuff like that, whatever, you go dinner parties and it gets brought up and people will agree with you, but they'll agree with you, but we can't talk about it. I agree with you, but I won't, I wouldn't say it in public. I wouldn't put it on Facebook. But it's like, I can't remember what journalist it was. I think it might have been Douglas Murray or somebody else, and they were saying this stuff, and it was outraged, and the politicians were coming up behind and going, "Oh, by the way, we do agree with you." And the media was going, "We do agree with you," but they won't write that story. They might agree with you, but they're not going to write the story. They're not going to stand up in public because they're cowards. And it's just like everybody's, that's what a lot of Brexit. I think a lot of Brexit was immigration.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a lot of people deny it.
Is then,
sorry,
what do you think the solution is then, as far as bringing up these issues into the mainstream and actually doing something about them?
To be honest with you, I just think it's talking about it, because I think that if everybody's just going to hide in the bunkers and you're just going to send people out one by one and they're just going to get machine gunned, and that's what's been happening. People have tried to speak about it, and then it's like, I mean, how long until this goes out and there's a big hit piece about me? And you go like that, what are you talking about? I used to do a lot of, not a lot, but I used to do kind of charity work and that, and try to raise money for Africa and all that. But then it's like these people will still paint you as the biggest bigot and the biggest racist and all that. I mean, I've had mates, I've been mates with for 20 years, and then on this issue, they're like, right, I'm not speaking to you, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, and you're like, what are you talking about? You're absolutely a nutter. Do you know what I mean? It's like, people need to be allowed to have the views they have. You can't keep, I mean, this isn't China.
This is the Overton Window issue, though,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you bring it into the Overton Window?
Well, I think the thing is about it, I mean, the left's been doing us some great favours by Ash Sharkar. I mean, that was just the clip of the year. We're winning, lads. You know what I mean? That was the clip of the year. And the thing is about it, I mean, there is some stories there, I'm sure. There's definitely some stories there, because the two of them, I mean, I used to like Owen Jones. Do you know what I mean? See, back way before he just gets so woke. Owen Jones used to talk about some decent issues, and now I've got him on Facebook and that. No, him personally, but his page and stuff like that. And you're just like, the stuff he comes out with, man. You're just like, you're unbelievable. You're a farce. I mean, with the Overton Window, definitely in Scotland, it's not there yet, because the problem is that in Scotland, we don't have the same issues as England. It's not, the immigration has mainly been to England, and I think that's why the Scottish people, there is a portion that would brand English people as racist in a way, even though for I don't even know how long, a long time, England's always been a outward looking sort of welcoming nation. You know what I mean? Obviously there was the issues with the Windrush and stuff like that, and there is issues there, but England's always been it's not, I'm not saying it's been multicultural. That was sort of brought in, and diversity and everything else, it's sort of
so that's all been outward looking country, I'd say.
Yeah, and it was I mean, you think about the great relationships that has happened between the UK and India, and I know there's criticism there, right? I get it, but with the people, to a point, you know what I mean? There's been a lot of good relationships between the UK and India, and successful ones to points. We can go back and look back, 100 years ago, but, it's right, whatever. But, in a modern concept, people have really tried to work together, and sort of looking at it now, you just think, well, we can still have all those good relationships. It's just the fact we don't want mass immigration. It's not we don't want immigration. We just don't want it to the point where You know, you've got Ash Sarkar going like that, oh great, well, you know, Britain isn't white and all that. You go, imagine if anybody said those kind of things and it was the other way around, like saying, oh great, there's less black people. I mean, who would ever, what white guy would ever get a job in the BBC ever again if they said that? And I'm sure she was doing a YouTube thing, but I mean, if anybody ever said that, like a white guy, they would never be close to the BBC.
No.
You know? So how is she allowed to get away with it? That's the thing. It seems to be there's one side that seems to get a pass.
Yeah.
And that's the bit about it. And it seems to be there's a lot of kind of this sort of like, yeah, and it is the double standards. I mean, see, to be honest with you, I think they could all have their views. Like if people want to go, we want more immigration, well, have your opinion. But I think, like, when you're talking about the Overton window, I don't think it's going to happen in Scotland anytime soon, because Scotland's doesn't have the same issues. But there was some issues that happened a few years ago. I'm not going to go into all that, but there was some issues that happened in Glasgow that was kind of it was a much smaller scale Rotherham, and also there was something that happened more recently that was that had also happened as well in Glasgow, and it had been covered up by the government Strathclyde Police. And like, I know what they're trying to do, but like, people are going to find out, and when people find out that people will be lying to them, like, the last thing we want our government to do is lie to us. Do you know what I mean? And try and cover things up, because it's just dirty. You know what I mean? Because how can people make rational decisions and like based decisions if information is being hidden from them? You know, I just find that a bit disappointing. But I don't think it's going to happen in Scotland anytime soon. I think that the main thing is trying to, in Scotland, what they really need to do to change that in a way is you need to be able to detach the Scottish national identity with the SNP, because the SNP's woke politics, unless they change the leadership of the SNP and they start turning that boat around. But because they've got the nationalist agenda, you know what I mean, which isn't a nationalist agenda, it's anything but that.
Mm.
You know, unless they can detach that, there's no way that you're going to shift the window. And there's like, the Tories won't get in unless Labour, like, there's no strength. I mean, I was recently on a kind of BBC TV show. It was, what was it again? It was Debate Night, which is like poor man's question time, right? And it's pathetic. And before the show starts, you get like an hour. And what they do is they run through it and say, this is the format, this is how we do things, and this is, we're going to like show you like how to.
You were actually on TV?
No, well, I was in the audience. I wasn't sitting on the panel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd went to the thing to kind of watch it. And at the time, there was a lot of stuff going on with what's her chops? What's her face? Mary Black. This thing about taking the adult entertainer into the primary school. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't.
It's a fantastic story. She basically, what she done was, it was a drag queen story hour, and she took this drag queen into a primary school.
Oh, this was quite recent, wasn't it?
This was quite recently, aye.
I've heard a little bit about this, yeah.
Yeah, just, this is what I mean, and it's like, people letting them away with this stuff. And you think, even though, like, I mean, I can't even remember what the suicide rate is for post-op transsexuals, and like people with body dysphoria and stuff like that, like, I feel for them, do you know what I mean? They're obviously going through a really hard time, you know what I mean? If you feel like that, then you've got some serious problems you need to get dealt with. And, I do feel sorry for them, kind of having to go through something like that mentally, but, that sort of kind of looks to the left about this non-binary stuff and all that. This was never the case before, and why it was getting pushed in primary schools is just beyond me. Because if you look at the post-op suicide rate, it's absolutely incredible. Like Scotland doesn't have a problem with suicide rates. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to do something to encourage school children to get into this. Even though the Tavistock Centre is another one there, like, what was it, a third of their patients were autistic. it was they're getting taken to court. You know, there's like a whole story there. You know, there's a the SNP. It does need to get detached though. Like there needs to be some way of basically separating the Scottish national identity with the left wing Twitterati that sort of like overtook the SNP, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Anyway, sorry.
I was going to say you might get a Scottish Tory leader at some point who might inspire Scottish people a bit more. You never know.
I fucking highly doubt it, man. I highly doubt it because
maybe Michael Gove.
Listen, you know, I tell you what, you'd be more likely to getting Gordon Brown re-elected up here. It's not going to happen, man.
He's the least Scottish person I know, Michael Gove.
it's like I'm telling you what, it's not going to happen up here. There needs to be somebody that really comes up and just changes the dynamic of the politics and just comes up and calls them out on it and makes some noise.
I was going to go on to talk about the issues we care about in general and how they're not in the Overton window. I think that has been bubbling for a long time now. Especially through the internet. So I do think the majority of people are quite worried about Muslim immigration and Islamic extremism. And so I think we're actually quite primed up now to have a prime minister, conservative leader who talks more about that stuff like Trump does. I think
the only thing is, sorry, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think, like America, I don't think if you spoke to the American political establishment before Trump, I think they would have said, these issues to do with, Muslim extremism and immigration, these aren't palatable subjects you can talk about politically. It's going to kill your career or whatever in politics. But Trump totally defied that and was one of the most popular, became one of the most popular Republicans by talking about these issues. I think the same will happen in England, in Britain. It just needs maybe a little bit of time for the Conservatives to be able to get someone who's willing to talk more. And I actually think someone I'd really like to see as the next Prime Minister after Boris would be Priti Patel, because she would. I mean, she's not going to do what Trump does and say,
no. She's still going to make one for kind of deportations. The brown people put it that way.
She's something about it, isn't she? And she's going to talk a little bit about it.
I think that was an absolute blinder move, putting her where she is. I think she's absolutely fantastic, and I think as well, with a lot of the issues with, particularly in London, with black kids stabbing black kids, and let's be honest, that's what's happening, and we need to be honest about it, because see, unless you start admitting that there's issues, how are you going to ever fix the issues? And we need to be honest about it. And I think she's the right person to do it and say, listen, I mean, the problem is you've got Cannon. Now, Can is going to, you're going to have cans in London because
what cans?
What's his chops? The London mayor.
Oh, Khan. Yeah.
I can. Scottish, my Scottish, isn't it? No, but there's obviously. I think that if Priti Patel can get on the stuff in London, but I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there in the next couple of weeks, because you remember, you think back to the London riots. What's it going to be like? If there starts being restrictions down there. It just depends how that goes.
Well, I don't think people will fully, there'll be people wandering around the streets no matter what. So I don't think it's ever going to turn into some kind of mass civil disobedience or anything like the London riots.
Maybe. I think that there might be a bit of it. I definitely think there's going to be some looting and there's going to be a few other bits and pieces. I'll tell you what, I'm super excited about the next season of USA, because that is just that TV is going to be incredible. See, when they start trying, once basically once the corona hits the USA, that is going to be super interesting.
Right. I think Trump's got a handle on it, though. I don't think it will get nearly as bad as somewhere like Italy, you know.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I think it's just the sort of like trying to put restrictions on Americans. It's just, do you know what I mean? It's like I think he's got great backing, but I don't know if how a lot of Americans are going to, you know, because I mean they like a riot. They're a bit
seriously, that's for sure. Because I've got a mate in New York actually, and they're saying they're completely on lockdown over there. Like no one's going out on the street because they're that worried about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, but going back to the Priti Patel stuff, I think that I definitely think she's going to be really good for the job, because I think as well, like she's someone that can stand up and speak about these issues. She's sort of like the Douglas Murray. Do you know what I mean? Because you know, because she's the immigrant parents, she can stand up and say things that no can white, you know, Tory educated and Eton can come out with. You know, because they just couldn't do it.
Oh, she's perfect, and I think at the moment she's in a brilliant position because she's primed to be the next prime minister, really, because she's Home Secretary now, and she obviously has a good relationship with Boris because she's come under so much fire recently that we had that civil servant, I can't remember his name, but he was one of the highest ranking civil servants, and
that was amazing. That was amazing.
He came out publicly, didn't he? Is it Rutman, I think his name is?
Yeah, it was him, and he just got slapped. That was amazing. Yeah. Well, it's like
civil servants very rarely come out publicly with this kind of stuff. So this guy was determined to take Priti down, and you know he gave it all about her being a bully and all this kind of thing, and Boris still stayed by her, and that's a good sign for me that you know
that was amazing. I was like watching that, and the thing is as well, like she like I think it was Sargon came out with something about what was it again? She was like a 5'2" Xena princess, warrior princess. I just thought that was absolutely hilarious, you know, because she's definitely. I just loved the quote. The quote was, "Why is everyone here so fucking useless?" I just thought that was absolutely amazing. You know, I just thought like that's the kind of people you need in government. See people that are just no nonsense people. And I think that's the thing. Like, I'm a big fan of Dominic Cummings, and I know that a lot of people, he's been made out to be this boogeyman, and I think it's ridiculous. Because if you look back at, there's a few videos of him speaking online, and if you actually listen to him, that guy is a genius. You know.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, it's you listen to him about how he's wanting to approach things. He wants to take a modern approach, and the civil servant. See, when that guy came out and he made his speech, I mean, he walked out and it was as if he was in black and white. You know what I mean? He was like straight out the 1970s. You know, he was just, you're like, this is not the type of person that should be running.
No,
you know, anything in 2020 in the UK. I mean, this is 2020. This is. Do you know what I mean? This is a different age. You know, this is the age of AI and, you know what I mean, reusable rockets and electric cars. This is not, well, also no flights, but we're living in a different age now, and people need to start waking up to the pace of change. And that guy walking out, he just looked like, you know, he looked the kind of guy who's still got a file of facts. Do you know what I mean? And you're just like, look, you know, that's not going to pan out. Do you know what I mean? These kind of people. So if you can't get things done and you're not willing to shake the system up, because we've done, like, I think as well in Britain, we've had like political stagnation for a long time, and I think now Boris has kind of got a mandate to say, right, we're going to shake things up. And I actually feel really sorry for him, because I think that this coronavirus, I think that he was going to do something really, really amazing, and this has just totally crushed the economy. You know, and
yeah, you say that, but I think if it's long term, it's going to be damaging for sure for, you know, what plans he has. But in a way, if this just ends up being what he thinks it's going to be, which is just 12 weeks, they reckon they're going to solve this whole thing in, hopefully sooner. I think he's going to come out stronger because, you know, he's given it the old war rhetoric about, you know, this sort of Churchillian type thing. And I think that's actually looking good for him right now. I think people are looking to him as a strong leader to get us through this. And so I think if he comes out of this, then he'll be a stronger politician because of it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. The only thing I would say is there's no way this is getting sorted in 12 weeks. This was something I was kind of going to lead on to. As I said, I spent quite a long time out in Asia, and I was looking at some of the figures there and what's been reported. Now, they're saying that there's 307 as to date, 307 cases in Philippines, right? I'm telling you right now, there is going to be, that is completely wrong. And once it hits Indonesia, once it hits, Vietnam and all these East Asian countries.
Well, it's rife in Iran right now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's rife in Iran, but I don't know. I don't really know why that happened. I don't know. I know why that it was so prevalent in the northern region of Italy, because it had direct flights to Wuhan.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's something I heard. I don't know. Don't quote me that that's definitely accurate, but I did hear that. But what I would say there was that once it gets into Southeast Asia is it's, if you spend time there and you go to somewhere like Bangkok or Jakarta or any of these places, it's 3 billion people on mopeds. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and it's it's so dynamic. It's and it's even the political structure. The figures as well in Indonesia, the political structure is it's because it's all was it no Polynesian, Micronesian, can't remember what the name, whatever the name is. It's basically a archipelago or something like that, right? Whatever it is, basically it's just a set of islands. So each one is kind of divided up, sort of like our counties, but they're a lot more independent, But if you go out there, the way people move, the way everybody gets crushed up, the denseness of the cities, I highly, highly doubt that Asia's not going to be, because I know I was speaking to somebody today and they were saying, well, that what they were kind of saying was that, that they think that basically China is going to come back stronger, because basically our economy's been so far in recession and they'll recover quicker than buy up everything in our countries, because they're basically worthless, so they'll become a superpower through that kind of method, like a kind of financial manipulation of the crisis. But I think that it won't really be like that. I think that because what they're saying is basically as the strains mutate, so the more people that get it, that you might have more strains, so this is going to come back round and come back round. So I mean, because you've got to think about it as well, when people talk about the Spanish flu that was 100 years ago, we didn't have globally connected cities by these can A380, you can get A380. We didn't have anything like that, so that spread, it wasn't spread like the way it is spread now. And the mutation amount, you've got to think how many people are going to end up with this globally, and then what's the mutation rate due to that? So I think Southeast Asia, I think that's going to be wildfire through there, because the thing is, it's like us. I mean, how much testing are we doing? They only want people to get tested if they're really sick, or they'll want to keep the test because there's not enough tests. How many tests do you think are going to be in Philippines, and how many tests are going to get to all their regions within it? So I'm very skeptical about the world bouncing back for this in 12 weeks. If we can get
it's going to lead to a recession. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but I don't think that, because if you think about it, say we get a handle on it, and basically because I know you were chatting about herd immunity. Now, I'm kind of a bit more a believer in herd immunity, and I know a lot of people are well, if you do that, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people die, and you're and I'm kind of was with the government, and I think I can understand why the government changed its mind. But the problem is, say if you don't have herd immunity, how can you go back to a globalized
Yeah, because
Like,
it's going to come out again at some point, isn't it?
yeah,
Because
well,
you,
as soon as somebody gets on a flight,
yeah,
so say it's in, say it goes to, I don't know, say a flight for anywhere, Dusseldorf or just Nairobi or Egypt, or do you know what I mean, Jakarta. You have one person on one of these A380s.
mm,
You know what I mean? Then you've got what, 400 or 500 people that have that are potentially infected, that are going to then fly into Dubai and then spread out all over the world again. And everybody that might not have had it is then they're back and spreading it all again. So I don't really know how this is going to pan out. Like,
but
genuinely.
what I learned recently, which kind of made me think of it a bit differently about it, is I was speaking to a biologist, and she told me that the virus doesn't really last in you for more than 2 weeks. Like, you can only really spread it to other people in the 2 weeks after you get it.
Right. Okay. Got you.
That's, I think, why they're trying to lock down everyone, because
Yeah.
if they don't have anyone to move to, it will just die. So they're trying to basically just cut it as much as possible. But the thing is, it's out there so much now that I don't know if you can really lock down an entire nation, because it is just destroying the economy right now. So,
Yeah. Well, no, I totally agree with that.
but the thing is, it's not actually much more deadly than the common flu. It has a slightly higher kill rate than the flu, but the flu still kills many people a year.
Yeah.
But just that it's quite contagious. It's more contagious than the flu.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I kind of feel that we should just isolate all the older people and the people who have conditions.
I get it. I know where you're going with that. Like, I do. Yeah. I definitely know where you're going with that. And I was kind of more like that at the start, and then I've became a lot more skeptical about it, just because I think, well, once it moves into Africa and once it moves into, like, definitely when it goes to Asia, like, and it starts moving through Asia, it's like there is going to be no way, because it's just there's so many people for it to cycle through. So I'm like, well, I mean, how are you going to get herd immunity in 3 billion people? Like, how many people are you actually willing to lose? Because they're not going to have the, if you look at, like, the ventilators and stuff like that, we're talking about, we'll get JCB to make it ventilators, and we'll get, Tesla will make ventilators. It's like, well, you better hurry up. And the thing is about it, I mean, they don't have the same medical care. Like, if you go to Indonesia, I think it's all private healthcare. But you get out there, you get, like, really amazing, like, really modern, like, better than UK hospitals that don't have, like, they'll be in the cities. So you'll get a few of them interspersed throughout the cities, and they're very, very modern, very, very well funded, to the best of gear. But the majority of local people cannot afford that, and you need to pay for everything as you go. It's not like, I had a friend that lives out in the Philippines, and he was basically, like, his wife had issues during the birth, and he actually had to run down the corridor with his bank card to pay for the surgery so that they would treat his wife while she was going through an emergency. Unless he paid for it, they weren't going to do the surgery. And he's like, no, I've got the money. Like, no, but you need to go down and pay. And this is right in the middle of childbirth, like a difficult childbirth. And it's like, so, but if you go outside of those, like, areas where you've got large modern hospitals, it's the medical facilities are very, very poor. And for the amount of people, the amount of ventilators that they'll need. The good thing is that they've got younger populations. So that's maybe the good thing there, but you're still going to have millions of people dying. Like, I really can't. I really genuinely, when I look at, like, being there and stuff like that, I can't see how like, what they're going to do about that.
Yeah. Well, Italy suffered particularly bad because it's an old country that they've got a particularly old population.
Well, what I heard was, to go back to the reason that they've got direct flights for Wuhan. Again, I might be wrong in this, but what I'd heard was that the reason that they got hit so hard is because, see, if you buy, like, a Prada bag, or whatever, for your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, says made in Italy. But who made it in Italy? Chinese immigrant workers.
Right, maybe, yeah.
Well, that's what I've heard, is that the fact is that it's Chinese migrant workers that actually produce that, a lot of these, things, because it needs to be made in Italy.
Italy has quite a close relationship with China, doesn't it, economically and everything?
I don't know, but I know that to get these to basically get the stamp to say it was made in Italy, obviously it needs to be made there, but it's not made by like Italians, is what I've been told. I'm not saying that I know that for to be God's honest truth, Well, I don't know.
Going back to YouTubing, I remember when you first reached out to me, you said you wanted to speak about some of the pitfalls of YouTubing. What are the pitfalls?
I think that was the thing. It was sort of like, see, looking at woes, I was like Millennial Woes. I think I kind of watched that and thought, who would want to do that? And then
you're talking about the pitfalls of people doxing you and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly about that. I mean, the YouTubing thing, it's like, I don't know, in all seriousness, I think I'm going to try and, I don't think I'll always kind of base it all like politically. It's not really something that, I think it'll be a kind of mix of like politics and culture and sort of like maybe personal experiences and, talking about, films and music or whatever, and sort of like, I don't want it to just be like, the Stefan Molyneux or the Sargon, I think, or like Morgoth, or some of these people. I think that they're so deep. Do you know what I mean?
A lot of these people as well, they're very particular types of people. I feel almost that many of them might be slightly autistic, because
100%.
Because to do what they do so regularly and like do all the research, like so much work goes into being like a good YouTuber and having people be regularly. I couldn't do it properly. That's why I'm only on 750 subscribers, and that's mostly down to Sargon coming on my show one time.
I mean, I'm
quite amazing.
I'm quite kind of open to what ends up happening. I think like, I definitely think that some of the stuff that Sargon's done, I really think has been incredible. Like, I think he went too deep with. I kind of started watching him after the Gamergate thing, so I was never really up to date with that, and I wasn't on Twitter and Anita Sarkeesian and stuff and all that. Like all that, it's just
Gamergate was kind of like the first big event as far as the free speech movement and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was good that they tried to fuck with gamers, because that was like the worst pair of people they could have fucked with, because gamers weren't left alone. And I mean, I'm a gamer, like I'm really into like Battlefield and stuff like that, and they had the woke politics with the release of Battlefield 5, and that was like kind to set like to go back to the World War II era, and it was like that was a utter disaster for DICE, who's the developer, but the publisher being Electronic Arts. You know what I mean? And their stock tanked a bit with that, because they sort of came out with, they were going to go, right, we're going to do World War II, and everybody's like, brilliant. They wanted Call of Duty with like the epicness of the Battlefield franchise, but they wanted it gritty, like sort of like what Battlefield 4 had been. But then they came out with this sort of tongue in cheek with this kind of red-haired, one-handed, like sort of issued like a claw kind of, sort of like this kind of fake hand kind of like woman that's running about doing cartwheels, taking on a tank single-handedly, and you think they want Dunkirk. That's what gamers want. They want 1,000 guys in a line. They're all wearing the same standard issue uniform, and they want to go and fight. That's what they want. That's what gamers want. Do you know what I mean? They don't want the woke politics. I mean, even one of the story missions in the game was. Do you know about the story about the heavy water in Norway, World War II? Well,
No.
basically, what it was is the Nazis were trying to develop nuclear weapons, but the only place they could get the heavy water was a facility in Norway. I don't know why. Like, I don't know enough about heavy water to go into the details about this, but basically, the place it was manufactured was in Norway, or Sweden. It was one or two. Sorry, I'm not 100% that. I don't want people, because you know what it's like. People jump down your throat, you know. But they basically done the story, and the actual story was a bunch of commandos went in to try and destroy it, and they actually all get killed. And then so the Germans like, right, they'll try to fucking blow this up. So then they defended it more. Then I think the second attack was successful. There is a really amazing story about this, and I think the woman was alive quite recently, or she might even still be alive. And it was something to do with they blew up the boat, because they were trying to get all the heavy water out. And I'm sure they blew up the boat that it was on, and she had something to do with that story. But she wasn't part of the commando team. But then in the story mission,
She was one of the
it
main.
was like there was like women going to block the base and that, and you think,
Yeah.
Like, there's amazing stories.
Have you seen 1917?
Yeah, have I? Yeah.
It really annoyed me. You know the scene where he meets like the guys in the truck, and there's a Sikh guy in the truck. There's like I think the Sikh guy says like, "Oh, you know, good luck," and he's like the most outstanding individual. Like, you know, you seem like a good guy and all this kind of stuff. And then there's like an English lad across him. He's like, "Don't listen to him. I can't hear a word he's saying because he's bloody Indian."
Well, there's so much of this. I mean, it was funny that you were saying
so much. It's ridiculous.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, like, I know you'd said
that scene for me took away the integrity of the whole film, because they're trying to ram a message down your throat, which is, hey, look, these Sikh people or ethnic minority people are so outstanding, and we should applaud these, and look at these racist English, you know, no
but
good.
The thing is there's a lot of that kind of stuff. I think that they could have handled it a lot better, because I looked at some of the comments regarding that, and see if they'd done things that was more factually accurate, then I think, and even if they did, see if they'd played it something like, you know, there was, because I think there was groups of Sikhs and stuff like that, and there was like a lot of different nations that was involved in the war effort. I think they were all like their own battalions or their own units, you know. That were,
I mean, I didn't know that for sure, but that's what I would imagine would have been the case.
I think it was. I'm not like don't kind of quote me on it, but I believe that's what it was. But I think if they'd done things that was more historically accurate, and they could have played it maybe in a better way, that they could have. If people want to include those stories, like, I'm all for them including the stories, but at least make it historically accurate. Because, you know, if you don't do it that way, you're being disingenuous about the people as well, and you're kind of disrespecting their legacy for what they've sacrificed. Because there was a lot of people that did go and sacrifice, like kind of like, you know, the people that came for the empire to fight in World War II, and, you know, there is stories there, but I'd rather see the story as it was, not as the story is I want them to show it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel very strongly about this, because I'm really into film in general. I love films, and as soon as you make film not about the art and about a message, of a political message, it becomes propaganda. And as soon as it's propaganda, you just totally zone out, because it's not being truthful in a way, even though, you know, films are for the most part, you know, a made up narrative. It's not being truthful to what the art is about. It's being
I totally get it. It's kind of funny you say that, because I've actually like, I'd normally work offshore, but through bands and a few other things, and I end up going to uni, and I've done sound, and I actually get into film, so I end up doing sound for film. And then now I do like film. I've got one wee small kind of film company and stuff like that, and that's, you know, something that I really love. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like one of these really filmy guys. Like, I'm not like I could go into like history, like some history of film, and a lot of more history about sound actually, but you know, music concrete, and, you know, like going back to, you know, like kind of Russian and Russian formalism and French, like that whole gig. I go into all that stuff, but it's for me, it's like, I know what you mean about the propaganda thing, and I think there's been so many movies like that. Like, I was watching the new Invisible Man with my wife last night, and that was absolutely shocking. That was like another, and I've been like, this, because I know a lot of people in the Scottish film industry, right? Now, they're all heavily left wing.
Yeah.
Right? Like the vast majority of it, right? And I'm cool with that. They can have their views. I'm not going to go into names, right? Because like it's a very small industry, you know what I mean? And I don't like, these people didn't ask to get spoken about. So like, I don't really like to like call out people or anything like that, But I wasn't really going to speak about this, but there was a thing that came up. I had someone who I know, and he's a decent guy, and he was working for a, I don't know if you know the BBC Social, but it's the cesspit viral video. It's the Vice News of BBC.
Oh, okay.
The ones that do all the BBC videos that come out with like the non-binary food people and all that, and
right, yeah,
those people, right? Well, like I know those people, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, right, like, they're good people. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sitting here saying they're bad people. They're not bad people. They're very well-intentioned people, actually. After the Trump election, or before, around about the Trump election, someone contacted me from the BBC Social. I won't mention their name. They basically phoned me, sent me a message and says, look, I'm working as a researcher for the BBC. And I'd put a comment on, and it was basically, there was a video, and it was basically saying, oh, yeah, Trump, Orange Man bad. It was Orange Man bad video, right? And it's just all these people going, yeah, Trump's bad, Trump's bad, Trump's bad. And then it was basically, I put in a comment that says, well, if you walk about in Glasgow in the afternoon, which is a student city, there's a lot of students there, and you go and ask, people that's walking about, because they were filming quite near the art school. And if you're going to be in art school, you're more than likely going to be left wing if you're that age. And It was just all these people just saying, all these young people, and just saying, well, Trump's bad. And it was like, and my comment was something along the lines of, basically, if you're going to go about Glasgow asking young people, through the day, people that's going to want it, that's got time to walk up and speak to people about Trump's election, it's not going to be people that work. It's going to be lovies for art school, quite frankly, and end up, it got like a lot of likes, and it was like top comment, and basically they kind of knew me, so they were like, basically gave me a phone call when they just like, why just know about your opinions? I was like, right, okay. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, so they did the full styling on you.
So I'm happy to speak to people. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like, I don't. Like,
were you working with them at the time?
No. I wasn't working with them. No. I've not done any work with them. They wouldn't employ me because that was another thing that came out. I'm not going to go into that because it's some people it's kind of friendly with. There was something that basically happened, and I found out that they told me a lie on the phone. So I don't really want to go into it because I don't like maybe the guy didn't think he was lying to me, but the guy was lying to me. And it was kind of funny because this guy was working at the time, it was near the time of the referendum, and he was sort of like saying, well, we really need to reach out to people and stuff because at the time of the referendum, everybody, this is an interesting fact, everybody at the offices in BBC Scotland were all pro-independence.
Yeah.
Right? Now, which and BBC Scotland got so much shit for being pro-British, and it was all like it was a big conspiracy theory. But I've been on the BBC Trust a couple of times, like on the panels for that. No, on the panels, but like in part of the, through university and stuff like that. I've done some of that stuff. But they need to stick to really strict guidelines and what they report, and they were basically given a balanced opinion, but everybody in the offices were all pro independence, I was like, what? Now this guy said to me, he says, everybody I knew was pro-independence. He says everybody I worked with was pro-independence. Everybody I knew was pro-independence. And then it was like, see, when he lost the vote, he could not believe it. Like, he could not believe it. And he's like, then it clicked with him, you know, because he's a decent guy. He's a guy that thinks. And he was like, I'm living in a fucking bubble. And he got it. And they were sort of asking me about the Trump thing and that. He says, look, I basically, I need to try and get out of my bubble and that. And they take on, with the BBC Social, they take on a lot of lefties. And I've tried to reach out to these guys a few times and say, listen, man, you need to try and have some people that don't just represent your political ideologies, you know, whether it's on the trans issue or whether it's on kind of like, whether it's a non-binary story or like everything's pro-LGBT. There was like about 6 months there that was just constant of that. Now, like, I don't care about your sexuality. Like, I really don't. Like, you know, I'm like, more power to you. If you're doing what you want to do, go for it. But if something is like to the point where, like, for example, the trans thing, like, say people with body dysphoria, I think are like percentile or percentile, but the airtime that they're receiving on these platforms, which is a licensed player funded thing, you know, they're getting a much bigger share. Now, this is that it kind of made me think about eunuchs. You know the story about eunuchs?
No.
Well, a few hundred years ago or whatever, they used to do this really cruel fucking thing where they used to get like kids and then cut their genitalia off so they would sing higher. And then they were kind of amusement for the upper classes. Now, now I'm not saying that history's repeating itself, but it kind of looks that way. You know? You know, so I don't know about that. So, but
did you oh, sorry, finish your story.
But it was just all they kind of phoned us and that, and like I'd kind of put them on to say, look, I think you should speak to Dankula.
Yeah.
You know? And I think this was before. And I says, look, this guy's really funny. I says, he'd be class, like, he'd be a really good guy to be on the other side of the aisle. Do you know what I mean? I was like, because you need to have the balance politically, because you had all these really left-leaning, like, kind of stories. Now, and it was all, but the thing is about it was done as a kind of promotion way that they'd done it. They'd done a lot of stuff that was sort of, it was sort of, they were promoting the left-wing kind of Twitter mob, and it was saying, well, this is what young people want, and you just used to go in the comments, and it'd be the usual, you know, people would be coming out and just saying, you'd get the people that stuck their neck above the parapet and says, like, this is fucking shite, and they would just be, you'd get a few people liking it, but like, you know, and there'd be people saying, oh yeah, really proud and all the rest of it, blah 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 blah, you know, this is great, but you think about it, are you going to comment something like that and say, I don't really agree with the amount of content you're putting out on this? Because you are setting yourself up to just come across as a bigot. So this is, again, like another one of these ones, you can't actually speak out against it. Because if you do speak out against it, you're instantly trying to be branded as some kind of bigot. But it's just like, look, that doesn't necessarily represent the public.
Yeah.
You know?
I was going to mention Dankula, actually, because he actually did a show for the BBC, which they ended up pulling in the end because of.
This is the thing. But this, I think. No, but this is no, but it wasn't like that, because I know a wee bit more of the story, because end up I spoke to the guy about this, because the guy I'd spoke to that was the researcher, I don't know if that was the thing, like me speaking to him was the thing that they end up going and asking him to do it. I don't know if that was it, but it was before that. And I spoke to the guy after it, and he says, I'll run about when I heard the show had been pulled. And I think I spoke to him around about that time, like over the period of 2-3 months about that. And I said, look, like, I know that kind of happened and stuff like that. And he's like, look, man, he's like, I did try. He's like, but we're just getting loads of shit about it. Yeah. And I was just like, you know, this is the thing. It's like, they need to stand up to these people. Do you know what I mean? Because if you don't stand up to them, then they just completely control the narrative.
Yeah. Well, that's where we get back to the thing where the adults can't leave the room. The adults need to stay in the room and make sure that everyone gets their fair share, their fair say.
But the problem is the adults are the problem. I went to going back to a film. I went to do an unnamed documentary funding group, shall we say. There's not that many of them in Scotland. I'm sure you could Google it. So I went to this sort of pitching thing, So you went there, and they were like, right, here's what we want, and they were sitting there. It was like there was like 4 women on the panel. I think it was like 3 or 4 women. I can't remember, and it was it was one of those ones. It was like you'd 2 kind of women, like kind of maybe late 40s, early 50s. I think one of the women was younger, and then it was like a Spanish woman. Or like there was 3 or 4 of them, but that was like the kind of general makeup. It was all women, and I was sort of like, okay. And I'll never forget this. Right, this is the one I'll never forget. It was absolutely hilarious. So we were all sitting there. There's maybe 10 of us in the room. It's not really a big thing, and they were like, and I think there was somebody that was like Chinese. I think it was like a Chinese guy or a Chinese girl. I can't remember. They were like kind of Asian anyway, like Southeast Asian. Yeah. And it just like I could have burst out laughing because like they were sitting there and they were giving the talk about it, about what they were expecting for this year, because it was going to be played on a certain channel on Scottish TV. I think there's a name there, but basically they were going to play this documentary. So I think they're going to fund 3 or 4 documentaries, and then they were going to show it on terrestrial TV. Now, this I just thought it was actually fantastic because they turned around and they were like, right. What we're really looking for this year is diversity, and they just looked straight at the Southeast Asian person, and I was just like, what is the point of me being here? Because you've already made up your mind about what you're looking for.
We don't whiteys.
That was it. It was like this is like the.
Since when did diversity mean no white people? That's what I don't understand. There's a picture I think one Labour MP once posted on Facebook or Twitter or something, and I think she's like an MP for Birmingham. And she said something like, "Oh, great to see such diversity."
I've seen that.
All the people in the picture were all Pakistani heritage.
It's like insane now. It's like it's went far too far. Right, I'm all for people being welcomed and everything else and being decent with people, but when it gets to the point that you just say, "Well, all the people we represent, they don't really matter," because what really matters is all the sort of kind of I don't mean fringe elements, but what really matters is minorities, and what we don't really care about anymore is the majority. And I think that's the way the BBC and other people have been. I mean, I don't know if you know about the other one, and it was for a assistant producer or something like that in London, and they've done this a few times, by the way, and it was the and it must be BAME,
Yeah, you know what? I think there are actually laws to protect.
No, there is.
There's laws to protect people from being discriminated against because of their skin color, right? But the way they get around this, companies like BBC and Channel 4, it's like an introductory scheme to the TV industry, which inevitably leads to a job. But they're saying, oh, no, this isn't a job. This is kind of like a scholarship kind of thing, or like a training program. But by the time they do it, they're getting a job. And so they can advertise those as, we want BAME-only people. But it is a job. And so they are discriminating against white people.
Yeah, well, that's the way I felt about it. And I'm like, I'm not like trying to take a job away from people, but I feel that they are. I feel that they've said, well, you could get the most talented like white person we could find, but we're not going to give it the job to them because they're white. If you said that about any other race, that you'd be like, oh my God, like how can you, like, I mean, imagine you put out some, imagine it was like the opposite and you said only white people can apply for this job. Like they would, like I would be angry about it personally. So I just can't really wrap my head around how the BBC. I don't know.
Well, we need more people to call them out on this stuff for sure.
Definitely, I think that's really the kind of issue. You know what I mean? It's like they do all need to get called out on it, and you know, I've tried to speak to the guys at the BBC Social and like genuinely, like being genuine in that as well, and saying, look, you need to kind of open this up a bit, because they're saying that you know, the BBC's losing young viewers and stuff like that. Well, you know, if you're going to keep doing this, then you're only, you know, focusing on, you know, so like a minority of people. Do you know what I mean? And it is a minority of people.
I feel like
You know
the
what I mean?
prevailing view amongst conservatives now is that they just need to be defunded and just let the thing fall apart, really, because it's had its chance, really, and it hasn't, you know, improved. And I do think that's the case. I mean, the TV license is a joke to begin with, so that needs to be scrapped anyway. And once it loses the TV license, I don't think it's going to stand nearly. I mean, they've tried to do things to modernize it, like BritBox. I don't know if you've heard of BritBox.
No.
But basically, it's a joint initiative between BBC and ITV and possibly Channel 4 as well, I think, where they're basically going to try and make it like a Netflix, but, you know, BBC, ITV, Channel 4. But well, they came to it way too late. It's too late.
They've missed the boat, but I don't know. Did you see? I seen a post recently. I think it was posted up in some group that we might be a part of. But it was a group, and what was that about? It was pretty interesting. It was for Menton, you know, Menton TV.
Right, I think so. Yeah.
It's a production company, pretty big production company based in London. They're doing this show. I don't know if it'll go ahead now. Probably not, but they were going to do this show, and this was after the latest election, and they were basically, they phoned me because it was like, oh well, what does it mean, Ken, like to be white in the UK just now? And I was sort of like, well, kind of, you know, you kind of get like, it doesn't matter what you think, because you're not really allowed to express your opinions anyway, you know, kind of thing. And I thought, right, fuck it, I'll email them. So I emailed them. They got back. It was like the little survey. Go through, done the survey. Woman phones me, and she was very, very nice, very nice. And we're chatting away about a few bits and pieces. And I was saying, you know, kind of, I can't really remember what the conversation was. It was run about kind of race and that, and like, you know, about certain views, and it went on, and then I was like, right, so what is the show? Because I know, like I've made 2 TV series, you know, like editing it for like other people, so like I know that the filming and editing process and the kind of pre and post side of things, so I understood it. And then I was like, well, what's the show? And they were like, what's the kind of format? And then she's like, it's basically people with different views on race getting put in a house for a week. And I was like, fuck no. I was like, I'm not going in, because you think about it, like all it does is like, even this stream, do you know what I mean? People cut out bits and pieces and take things out of context and everything else, you know the way it goes. But I was thinking to myself, imagine putting yourself in that place where you've got a week and you've got people berating your political views. You know, you might have somebody that's like full on, like we need immigration for everywhere. We need 50 million people to come to the country, you know, for whatever part of the world. And I've just sort of looked at it and thought to myself, no way. As soon as you said it was a reality TV show, I was like, no way am I going near that, because they would ruin you. They would ruin your career. That's why I'm more, probably about half.
I think it was Channel 4 that did a reality TV show like that, where they brought people in from all sorts of different viewpoints, like quite an extreme Muslim who's like very devout,
yeah,
like old woman, lesbian, everything in a house.
No, it's like,
my favorite part of it was that there was this old woman who basically said from the start, well, you know, we all have different beliefs, but you know, we all get along and we're all the same and all that kind of thing. And like, yeah, okay, let's see how it goes. And then there was some major argument because I think the Muslim guy wasn't happy about another girl like having her hair shown, because I think she was Muslim, but not like a devout one.
Yeah.
There was like arguments going on, and they had like a big spat. I remember when they had to go like to visit some castle or something. And again, the old woman was just like, yes, well, I think we've proven in this documentary that even though we're all different, we all get along well, and it's everything. Then you've seen like the chaos and the arguments, and you still believe in that bullshit just because you're so dogmatic in your. It's not even. It's just you want something to be true so much that you just deny it to deny reality.
Yeah, I think no. I think that's the thing. I mean, people need to be realistic about the situation that's going on just now, and it's going to it's a rocky road. You know, it really is. I mean, I'm kind of looking at it for the point, like, right.
Have you seen the Trevor Phillips stuff happening recently?
What was the Trevor Phillips?
Trevor Phillips used to be a quality minister for Labour.
That was disgusting. I did see that. That was terrible, man. Because I remember thinking to myself, he's coming out. He was like, you know, he was an anti-racism campaign on that. You go,
yeah.
Oh.
But he epitomises everything which has gone on at the moment, and I definitely recommend listening to his interview on the Today programme, Radio 4, because he was suspended from the Labour Party because of his comments to do with Islam and stuff like that. And he made that controversial documentary. Well, I say controversial, but it was a perfectly fine documentary called "What Muslims Really Think," where he
did he do that? See, I've not watched that, but
okay, that is the best documentary to watch because it's really interesting. Because Trevor Phillips basically says in the documentary, I originally thought Muslims would integrate and assimilate just like all previous generations of Jamaicans, Indians, etc., etc. And I was wrong. And he actually says that on a Channel 4 documentary. I was surprised.
It's that's the bit that kind of scares me a bit, because I'm sort of like, I mean, my time when I've been out there, I mean, like, Indonesia is like a Muslim country and it's devout, like it's you know, it's full on, you know, Islamic, you know, it's pretty hardcore. The thing is about it as well, see, when you're over there, it's strange because there's a lot of stuff they turn a blind eye to, and there's a lot of stuff that they're like really against. But you need to watch where you are, because I went to this one place. I don't want to name it in case I ever end up back there again, but it was the only place I've been there that I felt uncomfortable, and it was quite remote. And I went there and I just thought to myself, people were looking at us like disgusted, and you can't, like, Indonesia, there's a few places, but they don't really have pubs. They don't really have pubs. It's more like there's international. What's that?
I wouldn't imagine so. No,
you can't eat. Put it this way, you don't get bacon in the country anyway. But you can get a drink in an international hotel. You know, so if me and the guys would go to one of the international hotels, and we're in this one place, what I won't name, but it was like something out of Indiana Jones, right? I'm not even joking, man, because it was like the base of a volcano. Like, there's a lot of volcanoes, but it was the base of this kind of extinct volcano, and we were like approaching it in a ship, and like the cloud covers, like, you know, it's like the volcano comes up and it's like the cloud cover, then you can see the top of the volcano sticking out above the clouds and that, and there's a city at the base, and it's, you know, in the middle of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? So it's just this ring volcano island with a city at the base of it, and it's we got there, and like a lot of Indonesia is like kind of shanty towns, and like kind of like no all shanty towns, but like kind of like that kind of standard kind of Asian type building, you know, 3-4 stories high, you know what I mean, kind of quite skinny kind of buildings, almost a bit like, no, I wouldn't call it Dutch architecture, but you know, whatever. And we went there, and I was just like, you know, I felt really uncomfortable when I got off the boat. Like, I really, really did. And it was the only place, most of the time people are like really friendly out there, because what they call white people was bully. So go, bully, you know what I mean? That's what they call white people, you know what I mean? So that's what you hear all the time, particularly because we went to a lot of remote places because we were installing the fibre lines, you know what I mean? And these people don't have fast internet. So we were the guys turning up getting the fast internet. So these people are really, kind of got satellite internet, but like even when you turned up, you'd have a 4G signal on your phone, but that's 4G to the cell tower. But the cell tower is connected to a satellite, so the bit rate there is really low. But so the places were remote, and I went to this one place, and people were just looking at us like I could feel like not just one, but a lot of people, like their eyes were burning into me, and I was like, oh my god. We went into the drink at the International Hotel. They had no beers in the fridge. They had no wine, so they had to basically go and find the like 4 beers or something like that. This massive international hotel, you know what I mean? But there's like hardly anybody in it, and I end up getting we got some beers and that, we're having a drink out at the pool and stuff like that, and even the staff were just looking at us with utter disgust for drinking, like, and it was just like, wow, man, do you know what I mean? It's the only place really I felt really uncomfortable. Like everywhere else I've been is like people have actually been really, really good. Do you know what I mean? And really, really friendly, and it like kind of like I've really, really enjoyed my time out there. I think that it's just, I think that what's happened in the UK, I just don't understand what is went so wrong. Like I really, really don't like why we haven't been able to integrate these people at all. And there's an actual divide there in some of it. And I think particularly I worry about the second and third generation, because if they're still not integrating, like that's an issue.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Because we can't have a pure divided society. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I don't really know how we're going to deal with that, and particularly with the massive amounts of immigration. Like we've had it here for a while. You know what I mean? But whereas Europe's not had it there as much. But if you go forward 20, 30 years, what's it going to be like?
Well, I'm really keen to see what happens in France, because France for me is the center of all this stuff, because they have the biggest Muslim population of any European country. And you see this sort of clash of culture now going on with, Charlie Hebdo and the whole book thing. So I think because the British are quite tame in their response to dealing with, social issues, it's going to be a while before we get any kind of like real attitude change to this. Whilst France, I think, it's going to get to a boiling point then there. And I do feel like you have a good chance of having someone like Marine Le Pen elected.
I think that the thing is about with that kind of stuff, I'm a bit like, we need to try and get this resolved and something. I mean, obviously you've got that Wilder, the Dutch guy. Wilder, what's his name? Yeah. You've got him. But the one that I thought was hilarious, right? And I just thought this was absolutely hilarious, because I think as well people need to be quite careful about, particularly in Europe, we've started to be playing with fire, like really. And I think that, people need to be aware of this, and it's because if you're going to have a guy, these people are speaking out and saying like we've got an issue with this, we've had an issue with the public's an issue with a lot of this stuff for a long time, and it's not like, as well, it's not coming from a place of hate, which I think is what a lot of people have tried to
paint it as.
Yeah, they've kind of told everybody to be tolerant to intolerance, and I think a lot of people are like, well, no, because when you think back about all the education that someone my age or your age or anyone else, it's always been about how tolerant you should be, and not being racist to people for whatever reason, or whatever, and like accepting people's cultures. But when it gets to the point where certain things aren't accepted, you kind of need to go, right, hold on a minute, like, because you're supposed to tolerate other people's intolerance, and I find it quite kind of troubling, like, and so I don't really know where we're going to go with that. Do you know what I mean?
I think there's a there's definitely a wind of change in the air, and I'm happy where the country is going and the Conservative Party. So I do actually have faith, but in Europe, there's definitely a lot of tension there. So it'll be interesting to see over the next decade or two where that wind of change goes. So
I think that the one thing that people do need to watch though is like it's kind of that the Dutch guy we're chatting about earlier, I forget his name again, but yeah, well, he was speaking out, and I think it was the Turkish, because there's a lot of Turks. It's just like it's bizarre. Do you know what I mean? Like totally bizarre. But and they still see themselves as Turkish, right?
Yeah. Well, Erdogan actually went. I think
this is what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, he went to Germany to campaign.
Because they can still vote in the Turkish elections.
Yeah, because the Turks in Germany can vote in the Turkish elections.
I know, but the thing is, he done the same in Holland, and then Holland was like, right, listen, you can't be coming over to our country and doing political campaigning, and he just laughed at them because there's more people in Istanbul than there is in all of Holland. You know, it's like this is the thing as well. Like, see all these platitudes, all these niceties that like people have been doing for a long time. Like, you need to realize that the rest of the world's a lot bigger than what we are. You know, like a lot bigger. And this going and going up and start to, poke the tiger is not a good idea. Like, it's not a good idea because, like, again, going back to the kind of neocon kind of attitude to this, like you're just going to have a problem with this and you're just going to bomb your way out of it. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work, and it's like you really need to be careful with this. I mean, like a lot of countries have got themselves in a really bad position, like Sweden. I mean, look at Sweden. I mean, hand grenade attacks, like there was so many hand grenade attacks, like, and it was like a regular occurrence in Sweden. Imagine if somebody told you that in the 90s or 2005, that in 15 years, do you know what I mean? It was like bizarre, like totally bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, me and my friend, we were chatting about it and said, imagine if somebody came to you in the year 2000 and said, right, 20 years time, Donald Trump's going to be president. We're going to be just about going to war with Iran. Like in the first few weeks, remember it was trending, World War III, and it's just like that's just blown over. That's just gone. Everybody's forgot about that. It's like, we're fighting. We've been fighting a religious holy war for 20 years, and there's a virus that has shut down the entire global economy. Imagine if someone told you that 20 years.
Yeah. What about events like what was the thing in France where they had the building locked down and they killed like 50 people, didn't they?
No, it was well more than that. That was the Bataclan.
Yeah. It's funny because stuff like Bataclan, that was such a major thing to happen at the time, and it's almost become just one of many issues now. It's not even like a big thing anymore. It's just like, I
know that's the thing that just I genuinely what was it? It was 130 people. It was 130. 413 people were injured. And it was 90 in the Bataclan as well, and there was some horrendous stories that came out of there about they were making
stamping on people's genitals and stuff.
But there was things about getting people to behead other people. No, I don't know if that's true, but I remember there was stuff about they were getting them to do other things as well. Like there'd be stuff that's never came out about that. There'd be stuff that probably
they had. I'm not sure how closely this was to that time, but they had a Catholic priest and a Muslim.
Yeah, but they beheaded him,
slit his throat in front of the whole mass.
But this is the thing. I mean, I think as well, like there's definitely a difference between the individual crazies and the genuine, like, I mean, if you remember back, do you remember the Spanish bombings?
Barcelona, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, no,
I did hear about them. Yeah.
but that was like we're going back to like they sent Spanish troops over to Iraq. They done a massive fucking. They blew up all the trains in fucking Madrid. It was fucking huge. I
Oh,
can't
sorry.
remember.
Yeah, Madrid, not Barcelona. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that, and but I mean, there's so many of these. Like, there's so many, and then I remember I was actually out.
I do think France is the epicenter of it, and like we're talking about Bataclan. Bataclan was a big event, and also Charlie Hebdo.
That was another big one.
Even though Charlie Hebdo wasn't nearly as many people killed as Bataclan, that was like a big moment in French society where they actually had a conflict where France, secular, freedom of speech, Islam, totalitarian, no free speech. And so this is where France is coming to a crossroads now.
Yeah, I mean, I think France is. It's probably a good thing that is happening in France, because it's probably better that France is left to fucking deal with it, because it's probably going to be the one that sets the trend for everybody else,
Yeah,
and
I'm thinking as well.
A weird thing that happened to me, was it? Well, it was 2 years ago. Or about a year and a half ago. Everything happened so fast. I was actually on the ship in Indonesia with all the Muslims when the New Zealand terror attack happened. With the white guy, and he went and he live streamed it on YouTube, and that was fucking shocking. Like, I know I need see when it happened. Like, I would not fucking watch that video. Like, I absolutely fucking refuse to watch it because it's fucking disgusting. Like, I don't care who it was, it was fucking, to go in and shoot up a bunch of fucking defenseless people is fucking disgusting. It's utterly disgusting. And I was on the boat, and I remember it was a strange one because the mood changed, and it was sort of like the reverse of, see, if you will just not
extremism happen on the other side. This is the first sort of big one from first sort of violent reaction to what's going on.
Yeah, in the terrorism way, but there was another side to it as well, because of the dynamics of the ship. Me and the other Western guys that was there, we were the minority that was there. So it was like the reverse, exactly reverse. If say things like kind of Muslims over here and a terrorist attack that's got nothing to do with them. Do you know what I mean? And
so how do they treat you though?
No, they were actually fine. Do you know what I mean? It's like I actually went up because there was a guy who was actually an electrician, so me and him kind of shared the same job, and he was he was the imam. Well, not the imam, but he took they converted the non-smoking room into a prayer room, so they turned that into the mosque, right? But we were mostly smokers, so we were like, right, fuck it, we're cool with it. Do you know what I mean? We wouldn't argue with it anyway, but it was like, right, okay, that's their thing, because you go and do karaoke in there and go and pray, right? And that's their thing, right? We were cool with it. Do you know what I mean? We done our things. We played table tennis and smoked loads of fags and that, and went out for beers. It was all cool. Do you know what I mean? But we worked together. That was the thing about it. We all worked together and we all worked hard. And it was good, but at the time, I remember like the ship's electrician, he was like the one conducting the services and that, and I remember at the time just thinking, fucking hell, man, I just thought, like, he was genuinely upset. He was crying. Like, the guy was crying, man, and you could tell he was just, and me and him were never really particularly friendly. I think it was maybe a bit of kind of rivalry, because he kind of probably seen me as, why do we need these technicians to come over? But we've got our own people to do it, and I get that, right? I do get that. That's that. They can feel that way. I ain't got a problem with them feeling that way. And I remember at the time, and just, he was really upset, and a lot of the guys were really upset, but we were like, Jesus, we were on this boat, and like, we're like the only kind of Western guys about here. Do you know what I mean? And we were like, shit, this is... And it wasn't the guys on the boat that we were like worried about. Do you know what I mean? It was like, what if we were out shopping or something like that, and somebody just, you know what I mean, sees us and is like, you know what I mean, you're going to the jungle. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
Well, I don't think, to be fair, that you'd get like a hostile reaction, because I think most Muslims know that he's not representative of white people.
No, of course not. Of course not. No, I totally agree with what you're saying there. But it was more my feeling was that you're always going to get the guy like that, like the crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was what we were worried about, was what if we run into a crazy after that? You know what I mean? It's because you know as well, like obviously there's terror attacks over here. You'll get the crazies. Like there was the guy with the van that ran into the mosque recently, and the white guy, and he did that, and you're like, do you want to just stop? Do you know what I mean? People try to deal with this and escalation. This escalation, that's the problem. It's like
that will happen if things keep going the way they have been going for the last 10 years or so. You will get a response on that side. So that it was always inevitable. But
Sargon made a really good point, right? And what his point was that I thought was really good. I'm sure it was Sargon that made the point, was about the escalation problem. And he was saying, well, this time it was like, well, you had like 9/11, which was a huge one, but then you had like kind of Bataclan or whatever else, or like the London bombings or whatever else. There's like so many you could go through, but it was the escalation. It was like live streaming it, like that's going to happen at some point. The other side, and that's going to be, that's going to be another thing, because that's opened the Pandora's box. It's not just about doing it; it's about people seeing it. But that was like 9/11. That was about the spectacle.
People imitating and wanting to up each other.
Yeah, because they knew that would be like all over the TV and everything else, and that was it wasn't just to defeat them; it was to show that they defeated them. It was that to just put that we seeded out in everybody's mind that we can do this to you, and that's changed things immeasurably. Like that event set the tone for the next 20 years. Do you know what I mean? We're still in Afghanistan. We're still in Iraq.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then, but no, it's Syria, Egypt. Do you know what I mean? Like everywhere else. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got Yemen. Well, not there, but you know what I mean? It's like these things, the whole Middle East just fell apart.
Yeah.
Here, right, I'll give you one fact, right? Here's one for you. Because this will definitely get this stream blocked. But here's one for you, right?
Yeah.
Right, so I was watching a YouTube video. I was watching a lot of stuff in the Council for Foreign Relations. And you know how you get suggested videos? There was an American diplomat who was giving a black tie speech, and it was like he'd been there for like 25 years, right? And it was retirement. This is retirement over in the States, like after it. And he's speaking to like everybody, and he's basically done like a 2-hour-long speech about Saudi, the political changes, like Saudi society, Saudi economy, and he just goes through it. And it's all like a drinking. They've had dinner and everything, and you can hear the wine glasses chinking in the background and all that. This was with seriously high level people. I don't know if he forgot he was getting recorded when he said this, and I could not fucking believe it when he said this. He said that the House of Saud has got uranium, like blocks or C4 uranium packed onto all the oil installations. So if they ever try to overthrow the House of Saud, they'll detonate all the fucking uranium and pollute a third of the world's oil supply.
That's mental.
I've never been able to find the video again, but it's out there, and I could not believe that the guy said it. I really fucking fell over when he said it. I was like, holy fuck. So there you go. If that's out on the internet now. But it was out before. I just repeat what I heard. But this guy was a serious guy. This was not bullshit. This was fucking real. So there you go.
Okay. Well, we've been going for just over 2 hours now, so I think maybe it's time to wrap up the stream.
Yeah, no, that was good, man. Enjoyed that. I'm sure we're going to lose all jobs now, but fuck it.
I've already lost a job, and I've lost my latest job because of Corona at the moment, because I'm technically self-employed. So I'm hoping I'm going to get back to work eventually on that.
Listen, I need to. There's a lot of things still to happen, but we'll wait and see what comes about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, so we'll wait and see. I'll not be going on a plane anytime soon. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
But good chatting to you, Damien. Anyway.
Yeah, good to chat to you, and
All right.
who knows, maybe we'll have you on again sometime.
All right, man. Good chatting to you. Take it easy.
Right. Good to see you.
Bye.